A very good morning to all the students of PUC second year Arts, Science and Commerce College, Kentucky Republic. I am Ghulam Rabbani from Department of English, working at Nehru Arts, Science and Commerce College, Kentucky Republic. Dear students, in your previous class, I highlighted the syllabus of the course book, and I promised that I will highlight the syllabus of workbook, that is grammar part also. So in some other class I will definitely highlight. So there are some devices of grammar like pronouns, pairs of words, phrasal verbs, idioms, then active voice, passive voice, direct and indirect speech, letter writing, speech writing. So in your upcoming classes, I will deal with the grammar also. So today, without taking much time, I want to engage the second chapter, and the title of the chapter is "To Dear." So you must know the meaning of "to dear." The meaning of "to dear" is very expensive. So what is the expensive? You will come to know when I will narrate the story. And before commencing the story, you must know about the writer. And one thing, that whenever you are going to write for 4 marks question, you must write about the writer too. So you have to write few sentences about the writer or the poet, so that it will beautify the answer, and the examiner will lavishly, means wholeheartedly, give marks. So the writer of "To Dear" is Count Leo Tolstoy. He was born in the year 1828 and he took his last breath in the year 1910. He is a Russian writer who primarily wrote novels and short stories. So in his starting career, he used to write novels and short stories, and he was a master of realistic fiction and is widely considered one of the world's greatest novelists. And he is best known for 2 long novels, War and Peace, that was written in 1869, and Anna Karenina was written in 1877. So due to these epic novels, he is still remembered, and his contribution for literature can't be denied. One thing, that man can't be recognized by his name, but a man can be recognized by his deeds, by his works, by his practices. He is still remembered and read because of his contribution. So if you do not contribute, after a death, people will forget you. And if you contribute something for the society, for the people, in a form of literature, in a form of science, technology, or any other inventions, after the death of the person, still the man will be alive in the pages of the books or in the hearts of the people when the people will read the books. Now, what about two deer? The story begins with a description of the Monaco kingdom. So there was a Monaco kingdom, and it was a small kingdom with the small population of about 7,000. And if the land was to be shared, each would not get hardly an acre. As in other countries, it too had a king, a palace, ministers, an army, etc. The king of Monaco too had a palace, ministers, army, jurymen, courtiers, etc. So it was a petty king. It was a petty king, and that's why it was called Toy Kingdom also. Because the geographical boundary was also very small. If the land is divided among the people, each will not get more than 1 acre of land. What it indicates? It indicates that the area of the Monaco kingdom was also 7,000, and the population is also 7,000. So 7,000 inhabitants means people were living in Monaco, and there was a king, and king was ruling over Monaco. The army had only 60 soldiers. There was army also in Monaco, and having only 60 soldiers, because the population of Monaco kingdom was very less. That's why there were 60 soldiers. Even a small town can boast more inhabitants, means more people, than the Monaco kingdom. The prince collected taxes on tobacco, spirits, and a poll tax. So the prince used to collect taxes on tobacco, wine, spirits, and a poll tax, because he had to pay the salary of the ministers, army people, jurymen, and others. So what was the source of income that he used to collect? Taxes on tobacco, wine, spirits, and there was a poll tax also. Apart from these, he also maintained a gaming house, which would be a special revenue source. So apart from these, he used to maintain a roulette house. Roulette means gamble or gaming house or gambling house, which would be a special source of income for the king. In gambling, whether a person loses or wins, he must pay a percentage to the keeper, and who had to pay a large sum to the prince. So in gambling, people from different parts, different countries, they were coming to Monaco kingdom. They were playing, some were losing, some were winning. But the person must pay a percentage to the keeper, and keeper used to pay a large sum to the prince. So the Prince of Monaco got a good source of income to maintain his ministers and officials. And from roulette house, he was earning a huge and large amount. Because in German, Southern, and some European countries, roulette house or gambling was not permitted. There must be many reasons, but one of the reasons was that after losing Some people were committing suicide, some were shooting themselves, some were drowning. That's why the European countries, including German sovereign, banned over roulette houses. But who can interfere the Monaco king? He was the monopoly of this business. Yes, OLE. He was the sole survivor of this business. He permitted to run roulette houses, though he knew that it was not a good business, but what he can do, because it was a source of income for him and he had to feed his ministers, courtiers, army people and others. As I told, the German had banned gambling as many losers had either drowned or shot themselves. This had benefited the Monaco prince, as all who wanted to gamble came to Monaco's gaming houses. A few years ago, a murder was committed in Monaco. The people were happy and peaceful, and this had not happened before. So the people of Monaco were very much peaceable. There was a peace and prosperity also. But suddenly a murder occurred. A murder was committed, and there was uproar, there was commotion, and people were not happy at all due to that incident. All the prosecutors and judges assembled, and after the trial, the accused or murderer was given a death sentence. When they went to the prince to inform, he also confirmed it. So, after the trial, the prosecutors, judges, they assembled and there was a trial. After the trial, the murderer was given a death punishment or death sentence, and it was brought to the notice of the king, and the king also approved it, confirmed it. But then began the real problem. But later on it began the real problem, real hitch. What was the real problem? As it was a very small kingdom, there were no men to cut the criminal's head off, and there was no guillotine too. Guillotine means a machine through which head of the criminal can be chopped down or can be cut. So it was another hitch, because there was no executioner. Executioner in Hindi we can say Jallad. Executioner, the person who cuts the head of the criminal or accused. So there was no executioner, nor there was machine to cut the head of to cut off the head of the criminal. The ministers agreed to ask the French government to lend a machine and a man. So the ministers assembled. They discussed on that, what to be done and how to chop down the head of the criminal. They wrote a letter to the French government, and they got the prompt reply also. And the demand of the French government was 16,000 francs. 16,000 francs was a huge amount for the king of Monaco. What was the demand of French government? The demand for supplying guillotine means machine and an executioner. But the Monaco prince was not willing to pay such a huge amount. The Monaco king was thinking that if it will be paid and people cannot tolerate, they may raise questions on the functioning of the king. They approached the Italian government and they offered the machine with men for 12,000 francs. So when the king did not approve it, the ministers wrote a letter to the Italian king, because French government was republican and Italian government was brother monarch. It may come in your examination, who is brother monarch? So the Italian government or Italian king. Thinking that the Italian king will demand less, and the Italian king demanded 12,000 francs, including traveling expenses too. It was cheaper than the French offer, but still expensive. It was cheaper than the French offer, but it was still very, very expensive for the king. Again, a meeting was held and the death sentence was converted to life imprisonment. So there was again a meeting of ministers, courtiers, jurymen, advisors, and they finally decided to convert the death punishment or death sentence into life imprisonment, thinking that it will be very easy and cheap. They have no proper prison to hold him, but there was another hitch. Hitch means problem, that there was no proper prison. Prison means jail. We can say jail is also English word now. There was no proper prison to hold the criminal. They searched and found an ideal place and locked up the criminal and appointed a guard to look after him. So finally they found a cell or a proper place. They kept the criminal there and appointed a guard to look after him or to watch over him, and at the same time to fetch food from the palace kitchen for the criminal. Again the prince found this as an extra expenditure costing 600 francs annually. So a month passed, 2 months passed, then finally a year passed. When the king looking over the account of his income and expenditure, one day he noticed a new item of expenditure. What was the new item of expenditure? This was for the keep of the criminal. So 600 francs were extra spent on keeping the criminal. The prince could not allow it and asked his ministers to do it in a cheaper way. So prince could not allow and asked his ministers to do it in a cheaper way. And even he asked the general that one of your soldiers cannot cut the head of the criminal. General asked his soldiers, but nobody was ready to cut off the head. They denied, telling that they were trained to fight with enemy army, not to cut off the head of the criminal. So what could be done? They again gathered and found a solution to take away the guard so that the criminal can run away. So now they took the final decision that the guard should be dismissed so that the criminal will run away when he will see that there is no one to look after him. But the criminal did not run away even though the guard was not there. The criminal did not run away even though the guard was not there. And the next day he came out from the prison. He opened the gate of the prison. When he saw that there is no guard, he went to the palace kitchen. He fetched food from there, returned to his prison, consumed his food, and he did not show a least sign of going away or run away. So when he was not running away, he was questioned by the ministers, and he replied that he would not go anywhere as they had ruined his name and nowhere could he get a job, and asked for 600 francs annually. So when the criminal was asked by the minister that there is nobody to stop you, there is nobody to look after you, there is nobody and who is watching over you, then why you are not running away? The criminal replied that he had forgotten the work. People may turn their backs. People won't talk to him because his life is ruined by giving punishment. Now he is an accused before the eyes of the people. People may call him murderer, and he had become a lazy also by sitting in the prison. That's why he said that he did not want to go. And the ministers finally decided to give 600 francs annually, and he agreed. He agreed on the condition that if 600 francs will be given annually, then he will go and settle some other place. So they freed him from prison. The criminal went away with 1/3 of his prison pension in advance and bought a bit of land and started market gardening and lived happily. So the criminal went away with 1/3 of his pension in advance, 1/3 of his annuity means pension in advance, and bought a bit of land and started market gardening and lived happily. So he went from there. It took a quarter of an hour by rail or by train. Rail is also now English term. It is used in English. And went to the frontier of Monaco Kingdom. He bought a bit of land, doing market and gardening, and lived happily. At the end of the story, the writer Leo Tolstoy criticizes the functioning of the king and his ministers, telling that it was a good thing that he never committed any such crime in a country where the government does not grudge expenses to cut a man's head off or to keep him in prison for life. So he says that the government or the king who could not tolerate 16,000 francs or 12,000 francs to cut off the head of the criminal or to keep him permanently in the prison. He says that it was a good thing that the criminal did not commit crime again, where the government does not grudge expenses to cut a man's head off or to keep him in prison for life. So he is commenting on the functioning of the king. King is fickle-minded. He cannot take a decision properly, and constantly they were changing the decision, and finally the criminal freed. Criminal should not be freed, he should be punished. But here the king did not get any option. He was giving value to his money instead of peace and prosperity. Instead of ruining the crime, he did not bother about crime. But it was a good thing that he never committed crime again. So this is the story of today. My dear students, if you will have doubt after watching this video, you may raise questions or clarify your doubts. Your questions will be welcomed by me. It will be an opportunity for me to solve the questions of the students. So you can clarify your doubts if you will have. So thank you so much and have a great day.